Hello and welcome to Back to Basics with Sandra and Lyndall. Hello and welcome to Back to Basics with Sandra and Lyndall. We have just hit season 3 and we have a very special guest today, mum and entrepreneur, business owner, Parisa. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So I want to throw it straight over to you. If you want to give us a little bit of an overview of, I guess, how you got started in the fitness industry.
Yeah, so I originally have a background in corporate. So I was in accounting for a number of years, for about 9 or 10 years, and just sort of by accident fell into the fitness industry. I started doing, PTs and training sessions with a friend who owned a gym in Rockdale in Sydney. And what started off as sort of casual training sessions very quickly developed into a real obsession, to the point where over a couple of years it led me to quitting my corporate job and working full-time in the fitness industry. And it was sort of from there that it started. So it wasn't something that I had planned, or if you'd asked me prior, I would never have. I didn't grow up sort of active. Academics was also always promoted in our family and in our household. So sports and training and physical exercise wasn't really a big part of growing up. So it was not something that I saw myself doing as a career, definitely. So it was a big change and the best change ever.
That's such a
huge
big
transition
to go from accounting to fitness. Like how was that for you?
It was very easy for me. I knew I just I once all the it wasn't something that happened overnight. So for quite a long period of time I was working my 9 to 5 corporate job in the city, and I was training in the mornings beforehand and working at nights after. I was also in my 20s and single, so it was a very easy commitment to be able to do that. I often think, like, if the timing was different and it was now, that's probably not something I could have done. But the timing was right, and it was a very easy transition once I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
How did your family take it?
That was not an easy transition. That's why I was like, it was very easy for me. It wasn't easy for the people around me. My poor mum was like, what do you mean? Like, I think parents grow up, go to uni, study, get an education, and to tell them at the age of like, I don't know, I was 24, 25, whatever I was, like, sorry, mum, sorry, dad, I'm going to quit my job and,
pursue what you love.
They were like, what do you mean? Yeah. So it was a big shock. But I'm very lucky. They've always been very supportive. Growing up, it was always like, we might not agree with this, and this is why. There was always a why. But if this is what you're choosing to do, then we support you. And as long as you're working, then we'll support you. But yeah, it was a big shock. Even now, every now and then, mum's like, will you ever go back to accounting?
You've thrown all the suits out now.
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah,
I think I'm a better trainer and a coach than I ever was an accountant. So I think I'm happy to stick with this.
Yeah, you're just calibrating the barbells and the plates now. You're not doing the numbers on the paper, which is even
No.
I don't know about that. I feel like PTs are the worst counters in the world.
I
Ask my members, they'll tell you. How are you ever an accountant?
So how did you move from PTing to business owner?
So when I first got into training and coaching, it was I gravitated towards that group coaching environment. I've always preferred it to PTs. I love the group training atmosphere, and I like the community aspect of it. And I think that's what draws a lot of people into the gym as well. So originally I was, doing CrossFit and coaching CrossFit, and it was always the group training that I fell in love with, and it was because of that community aspect. So even now, like doing PTs, I always prefer to do group classes than PTs, because I do like that group aspect of it and the community aspect of it more than the one-on-one. And I feel like you can still make quite a significant impact in a group environment. That's just me personally. I gravitate towards that. We offer PTs. We've got all of our coaches do PTs, and so many people prefer that one-on-one coaching experience. I personally just felt like I, gravitated more towards the group classes a little bit more, if that makes sense. So the transition was, I liked that. Like I've always wanted to do that, and I've continued to enjoy that side of it.
And moving.
Sorry, go Lyndall.
No,
Go.
you go.
I was just going to say the group dynamic is so much more fun. And I think just in fitness in general, people find it it's such a chore to do it. And then when you get a group of people together, it kind of makes it a lot easier to commit to something, because you're showing up for them as well. And that's like, we all work in that industry, and we know how important community is. And just on that, like sometimes the community is not for everybody. Do you agree that it's not always the right fit for everyone? Yeah.
100%. Like we for over the last 7-8 years, so when I moved away from the last business and opened on my own, I was in 2016. So in the last 8 years, we'll have people that come and trial, and it doesn't matter if it's CrossFit, the Yard, whatever, F45, like Orange Theory, whatever that group setting is, there will always be people that will come in and they'll still try it, but the feedback will be, I prefer to do it on my own. I like doing it on my own, or it's just not for me, or it could, like, there's so many different reasons why, like social anxiety, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's not for everyone. And I've learned that across the years, like over the years, that what I'm doing is not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's completely fine. You've got to find what works for you, and whether that's PT, whether that's golf, whether that's walking, whatever that is, you got to find what works for you and stick to that, because that's what's going to keep you going. So it's definitely not everyone's thing, and that's fine as well.
So being in business for so many years, for you, what has been like one of the biggest changes that you've seen in the fitness landscape in regards to business over that time?
I think because of social media, it's become so much more of a thing for people to get involved with. Like, I don't know, for me growing up in my teens and early 20s, and I don't know if it was maybe also a cultural thing, but it wasn't a thing that a lot of young girls did. And seeing now where we're at, like the amount of young girls that come in and they want to lift, like we have so much more interest from our female demographic in weights and strength training than we did when I started out. They prefer that to the conditioning and the cardio, and they want to get strong, and they want to, like, it sounds really cliche and it sounds a little bit cheesy, but that is what young girls and now middle-aged women and older women, like, that is what they want to do. And again, I don't know if it's, I would say it's more social media that's had such a big impact as well, but whether they're seeing the importance of it, whether they're seeing like celebrities and influencers that are doing more weight training and things like that. So I think there's been a big shift in the importance of strength training for females. And I think that's been a big shift in from a business side of it as well. Like, I know when I first started CrossFit, the people around me were sort of like, why are you lifting so much? And comments about body and you're so muscly and this and that. Now it's like every day we have a 14-year-old girl that comes with her mum. She's like, I just want to, like, I want my legs to grow. I want my arms to grow. I want my, like, and even though it's still a little bit of an aesthetic goal, which is
Yeah.
totally fine, it's strength focused. It's not, I don't, like, it's not, I want to be skinny and I want to lose weight. It's like, I want this to grow. I want to have muscles. I want to, which is kind of refreshing.
It's
But
good
I think,
because
yeah, from a business perspective,
yeah. No, you
sorry.
go. No, you go.
Yeah, no, I think from a business perspective, I think that's been a big shift, and a positive one, I think.
Yeah. And it's good because I think as well, like when you go and do PT, they talk about when you do your certificate, I mean, it's such a difference to what's actually happening in the community and in society, and also what happens on the floor, because they talk about BMI. And even doctors today, like if you go to the GP, they'll say, oh, your BMI is, too much, or you weigh too much. They're not looking at it from a holistic point of view, like, whether how much muscle mass you have, are you able to carry your groceries from, the street to your front door, that sort of thing. Like they don't even talk about that. But I think because social media, and I think it's a positive thing, although it can be, affect your body image in other ways, but it's all that education now is about long-term effects of strength training and that functional kind of fitness. Are you able to lift your children? Those sort of things as well. I think that that's also had an impact on how well you carry yourself through life for the rest of your life. And the changing demographic of people in the gym is huge. Like I remember, Lyndall, even when you had squad gym, the women were mostly the ones that were in there training. I think we outnumbered a lot of the men that were there. And it's good to see that continue and younger people coming through, because we get to change that for the future.
Yes.
Which is incredible. Yeah.
When I started training, there was like the only girl on the weights floor, and you guys were probably similar, whereas now, like, we take up most of the space.
And it's so good and it's so refreshing. And like you're seeing parents now that are getting the kids involved. Like I think even the mindset of parents is starting to shift from like they can't lift weights because it's going to stunt their growth, and we know that's not the case. But that mindset's starting to change, and I think there's a lot more education around it. I was chatting to someone yesterday. Sorry, I can ramble on. So I apologize.
That's what we love.
I was chatting to someone yesterday who was a state level high jumper in high school, and he was saying he got at the age of 15, he got injured at a competition. He got injured, and that put him out. Like that was the end of his, career. And he wished that when he was younger, he'd taken up strength training. And now, as a dad with teenage boys, he's getting them into it because he recognizes how important it is as it reflects in other areas of sport. Like, you get your football and your soccer players that are doing the strength training to complement what they do in their field. There wasn't, like, we didn't know about any of that when we were younger, or maybe our parents didn't know about that. Whereas now, like, it's coming from the parents as well, which I think it's fantastic.
There's so much more of a healthier outlook on things as well. Like I remember when me and Sandra have spoken about this many times, but when I started training, it was to be the skinniest possible version of myself, because that was what was trending at the time, and that was the look that everyone was going for. Whereas now it's to be as strong as I can, or to perform as best as I can, or you know what I mean, just to be a better, healthier version of myself. And I think a lot of people do come in the gym, obviously with some have aesthetic goals, and that's completely fine, but it's definitely more of a healthier outlook. Is that something that you've noticed as well?
Definitely. It's such a big shift in why people are coming to the gym. I've also found, like, over the years, and maybe, like, I don't know if I've thought about whether this is a post-COVID thing as well, where it's more of a mental thing. Traditionally you go to the gym to lose weight, to change your body composition, to look a certain way. There's a lot more people I've found coming in that are doing it for their mental health. A lot of mums that are picking up, training postpartum, that are doing it for their mental health. And I think that's picked up a lot more as well, where the goal's not just physical, a lot more mental. I think it's a good thing, but I also wonder whether it's a sign of like the decline in mental health in society as well. But that's a whole thing on its own. But yeah,
It's another podcast.
Yeah.
You speak a lot about the positives of social media when it comes to fitness. Do you feel like there's any kind of negative sides of social media when it comes to fitness?
Yes. I think.
Here we go.
Next ramble.
Here we go. Yeah. I think there's so much positive, as we know, that can come out of it. There's so much dangerous information that's also out there. And there's still a lot of people that don't have the education. And so, like for us, we can recognize when we see something on social media and we go, well, that's a load of crap. For a lot of people that don't have that education and that maybe don't have access to PTs and gyms and trainers, they see stuff. Oh, I should be eating 1,200 calories, or like the trends of like what I eat in a day. And you look at what they're eating in a day, and it's an influencer with and like that. You look at what they're eating in a day, and I'm like, my 3-year-old eats more than that.
Yes, 100%.
Like we just, it's so stressful. And I think like especially when it comes to the nutrition side of it, but I also feel like the positive side of that is there are a lot of really good accounts that are calling that stuff out.
Yeah.
I don't know whether one outweighs the other, but I've noticed that it does get called out a lot more, which is great because it's keeping these influencers and influencers accountable. But yeah, there's a lot of misinformation, and if you don't have access to coaches and PTs and nutritionists and dietitians, how would you know? You know,
it's easy for someone to be an expert at nothing these days. Like you just put it in your bio and you become this source of, information that you could be just copying and pasting from Google or copying someone else. And it is stressful because how do you justify or like show them that it's incorrect if they're saying, this person said this, and then your feed does this thing where if you look at something and you interact with it, it'll keep showing you the same bullshit. So you can't even get rid of it. So you're like, well, it must be if there's 10 people saying it, or no, that's just your algorithm fucking with you. So it sucks.
And all it takes is like a hot body in a bikini or a six-pack or whatever, at 100,000 or 200,000 or whatever in followers. You pay for your blue tick, and then next minute you're giving out advice that you're not qualified to give, which can be, we know is so harmful, especially for young people.
Well, I think especially because online coaching is so prevalent at the moment as well, and you don't. Who asks for your qualifications when you're an online coach, right? So it's crazy misinformation out there. But you mentioned before, and obviously the fitness industry had a really tough time because it was closed down overnight multiple times. How did that kind of affect your business? And then, how did you overcome that as an obstacle?
Look, we had 2 different experiences with the first lockdown versus the second lockdown. So when the first lockdown happened, we were like, we just did everything we possibly could for our members. And I think most of the fitness industry, like we didn't know what to do. No one knew what to do because there was no precedent. There was nothing to go off. So for us, it was just like, if you want to take equipment, take equipment. We're going to run Zoom classes. We're going to like what most of us did. And the priority was just keep our members as engaged as we could, keep them as part of the community as much as we could. And we sort of said, look, if you're in a position where you can continue paying for a membership, we appreciate it. We love you. Thank you so much. And if you can't, we understand. We still love you. We still appreciate you. That's all good as well. Take equipment home. We didn't charge for that. We ran our online classes. We had like 3 classes a day, 4 classes a day. We ran like Zoom like trivia nights and things like that every week. And we kind of like, we actually ended up growing a little bit, not growing, but we had new people sign up over that first lockdown period, where they found that they weren't getting that same experience from their current locations. And you can't fault them for that, the other gyms, because no one knew what to do.
New landscape completely, yeah.
It was completely new. So you can't say like, well, you did the wrong thing. How do you know? But so we found that we were getting people come across. And then when we reopened after that first lockdown, we had a wave of people come across as well, because we were like, oh, like, you know, we saw what you did with your members and you took care of your community, blah, blah, blah. So that was a really, amongst the negative, that was the positive that came out of it. The second lockdown was so much harder because everyone was just over it. No one cared about doing Zoom classes. No one was interested. We, on the other hand, we were lucky. So we were in this space that we're in now. I don't know if you can see. I'll show you. So we had this area, which is kind of outdoor, but like, so this classified as an outdoor space. So we were really lucky. We had a rig set up here. So this is before we've done this rebrand. We had a rig set up here and we were allowed to run sessions with 2 people or whatever it was in this space. So we ran our classes here, and then in our area outside there, we taped off. And again, what most people I think did was utilize whatever outdoor areas they could within the parameters of what the rules were and ran our sessions. It was a lot harder second time, so much harder second time. But yeah, it was a shit time for everyone, I think, and a time that no one wants to relive.
Oh yeah, let's not go back to that time in our lives, eh?
Yeah, 100%.
So I guess, you know, being a business owner for as long as you have, you know, do you feel like it's like changed the type of service that you give as a PT?
I think it's, for me personally, it's changed because of the stage that I'm at in my life. I feel like I've changed and the business has changed as I've changed and my life circumstances have changed. So when I started, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. My training was very different. The time I could dedicate to my training was very different. And the service that I offered in the business that I ran was so different, which is a big part of why we went through the rebrand and we changed a year ago. I think the service that I offer now through the Yard, and this is a franchise model versus prior to this, I was running my own. It reflects the timing of where I'm at in my life now with, you know, having a family and a very young family. My time is limited. I'm no longer spending 2 hours in the gym. I want to come in, get in, do my workout, train, and then go home to my family and to my work, to the business. It reflects precisely what our demographic is here. Like, it's all young families. People want to get in, train, be a part of a community, go home to their lives, which is a complete, like, if I look back to where I was even 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's completely different. And I think what I do in the business and the service that we offer has changed because of that, because of my own personal experience. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it's very reflective of where I am in my life.
For sure.
How
do you juggle it all?
Same. That was my next question.
I don't know.
How do you do it, girl? I think we just do it. I think being a parent has actually made it easier for me to be able to do it all and still find time to myself, because you have no other choice, right? And I think, like we said this in a different podcast, like sometimes people say something has to give, but I don't actually think that it does. I think you just have to prioritize and know how to manage your time. sometimes we burn out, but it's all worth it at the end of the day. Do you think? That's
It's
maybe
so
just
worth
my
it. Look, I'm still trying to figure out the balance part. So it's like, if I look back, I feel like it's such a blur, but I think the main thing for me, and I'm forever grateful, is the support. Like, I have a husband who is very involved. His line of work and my line of work allow for us to tag team. So my working hours, and I'm not talking about, like, you know, the hours I spend on the laptop or doing the admin stuff or the behind the scenes stuff. My physical hours in the gym coaching are early. We're from, you know, 4:40 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., which is perfect because the kids are asleep till about 6 or 7 a.m. I get home, we get them ready, do the drop offs to childcare and whatever. And then at nights, now I'm at a point where I've pulled back and I'm not working as much at nights anymore because I want to be home with the kids. But at the start, like the first 6 months when we opened the yard, I was here every morning and every night. So at nights when I was here, he'd finished his you know, his day, and he was home with the kids. I get a lot of help from my mum, from my in-laws. Like, I'm so lucky, and that's not lost on me because I'm around a lot of parents who don't have, like, their families are overseas or interstate. I have a lot of friends who have kids, so a lot of our all of our members, most of our members are parents with young kids. So if I have to bring the kids in, like, we've got the creche, it's a very family friendly environment where everyone's very understanding. My business partner, the people that, like, the franchisors, everyone around me is in the same situation. And I think that's so important because we all understand. We all understand that we're not married to our work, where, yes, it's our passion, we love it, but we also want Sundays at home with our kids and our families. We want to spend our nights with our families. You know, we're not here 24/7. And we're doing this for our families. It's a massive juggle, but having a network that is understanding and is supportive has made a huge difference, and is in the same sort of, like, we're all on the same page. I think that's made it a lot easier. And there are hard days. There are some days where I'm like, I've got this. This is amazing. I went through a phase where I was like, I want another kid, and that did not last very long. Yeah, I know,
You're
I'm a bit
nuts, girl.
crazy.
You're
Not,
nuts. You're nuts.
no, yeah, it's not ever going to happen. But I went through a phase. I was like, this is great. I want to have another one. I went through a phase where I was like, I want to open another gym. And then there are days where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
No, 100%.
How's the gym still running? How are my kids still alive? Like, how? But it's like this. Every day is like this.
Yeah.
And that's
You know
right
that?
on cue, because I have to go wipe a bum. So I'm going to put myself on mute. I'll be right.
I love that.
Oh my God, it is a classic. But I
That's
think
so good.
I mean, you sound like you're like both of us as well, that if we weren't as busy as we were, we'd feel like we weren't doing enough. Do you feel like that?
Yeah.
I have days where I'm like full imposter syndrome. Like, how did I get to where I am? Like, how the fuck am I running this business? Like, what am I doing? But then I have days where I'm like, fuck, I've got this. Like, no one can do it like I can.
Yeah.
Like, but then, you know, so even when I'm like having my Sundays to myself or with my family or whatever, I still feel like I should be doing something.
Yeah. Do you find it really hard? Like, I find it really hard to, I guess, switch off from the work side of it.
I find it really difficult. I think, you know, I do work from home a lot as well, which makes it tough because, you know, and I've had various jobs throughout the years where I've worked from home, and yeah, my toxic trait is when I work from home, it's really hard for me to have that home work separation.
Yeah.
I find myself when I'm, you know, not working, it's very hard for me to give myself permission to relax and not think about work and not feel guilty for that as well. Like, do you?
The
Yeah.
guilt Oh, the guilt is real.
I think as a business
I
owner,
get-
like, what more could I do? Like, am I giving enough value? Like, all of these sorts of things go through your minds at different stages. And it's really, yeah, it's tough.
And it's everything guilt. Like there's mum guilt, there's friend guilt, there's wife guilt, there's work guilt, like everything. And you don't, yeah, I think the hardest part for me is, yeah, just the guilt associated with when you're not doing one thing.
Mhm.
You know, if I'm at work, I feel guilty about not being with the kids. If I'm with the kids, I feel guilty about not doing more for work. If, you know, friends, not spending enough time with friends and seeing them and making enough effort, like, and that, like, for me, I mentioned it earlier, like I'm still trying to figure it out, but like things have slipped.
Oh, yeah.
I've forgotten birthdays. Both my husband and I forgot our wedding anniversary. Like things have definitely slipped where we go, like, fuck, how did we forget that?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's a battle, but I also don't know, like there's nothing else I would rather be doing.
Mm.
I love the work so much. Like it genuinely brings me so much joy. I feel so fulfilled doing it, that I can't imagine not doing it,
100%.
which helps because if I didn't love it, then I wouldn't last.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
no way.
Yeah.
I think for all of us, like we're all in the same boat. Like
Yeah.
why, you know, you go through so much and you put yourself through so much. You wouldn't do it if you didn't love it.
No
And
way.
it's
Which sounds
crazy.
really cliche, but
Yeah, but also like we have so many people relying on us, and I feel like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to show up for other people a lot, whether that's our children, whether it's our members, whether it's, you know, our family. A lot of people are relying on us. So I think we also need to remember to cut ourselves some slack that, yeah, like we can't be everything to everyone. So you find that that's a really
yeah,
hard balance as well.
yeah. And
I
at the
think
same
we
time,
struggle with that daily.
Yeah, daily, like there's how many different hats, like and like you said, sometimes you think like, how the hell have I been able to do this? But it's the amount of hats that I transition through, and all of us would do this throughout one day. And then I sit back and I go, holy shit, like I'm a fucking queen. But then at the same time, it's like, I'm gonna burn out in a minute. Like, because
yeah,
you just like it's like and you know it because I get home from work, I do 9 to 5 still. And I have not sat down. I've got 90 minutes to get ready for my class at night. And it's literally like Superwoman. Like you get changed while the air fryer is going, while you're, you know, getting the kids bathed, and you just end up showing up. Like you just do it. So I just don't know how. Like even now,
but
like
it's
wiping a bum like in the middle of a podcast, but you just do it. You just roll with it.
you just do it. And I think if the alternative is not doing this and not doing what we enjoy
Yeah.
doing and not having the like, I don't want that alternative. Like I
Yeah.
think you're right. Like you just do it because if you don't, well, what's the alternative option? And I don't want that alternative option.
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it.
I've definitely been in work situations where I've not loved what I've done, and I've far, far prefer to be like so busy I can't breathe sometimes and absolutely love it than to be back in that situation where I just every day, you know. I think but
100%.
I have to catch myself sometimes and remind myself of that, because I feel like sometimes you go, oh my God, I achieved nothing today. Like I was so busy, I achieved nothing today. But then you look back and you're like, fuck, I've come a long way. You know what I mean? Like it's just that constant reminder. And I don't think that guilt ever goes away either. It's just, you know, the constant reminder of how to deal with it.
Yes.
So what's next?
100%.
What's
I
next?
just want
What?
sorry, you go.
You go. No, you go.
Oh no, I was just gonna just on social media because I do want to talk about this. Things like performance enhancing drugs. I just wanted to hear like your take on that, because I hear a lot of people calling out other people about that online, and I just want to hear your take on it. And also the change in body image, and how obviously, you know, how you said like people are now moving towards being more muscly and having like glutes, you know, which is a huge thing now for women. Back, you know, and obviously you've got quite the physique with all your muscles and all of that. But, you know, obviously there'd be a bit of backlash because, you either have too much of it or you don't have enough of it. So you're never ever, you know, everyone's cup of tea. How do you navigate through that? Or how have you in the past, you know, through all the changes, and obviously being a mum and giving life, your body changes dramatically during that period too. So all of
Yes.
that.
Did you get all of
Yep.
that? Yeah.
All of the things.
All of the things.
So it's a big question. So I've gotten to a point, and I think, you know, as I've gotten older, I've gotten to a point where I'm really comfortable. Like, it's funny, when I first started training, and I'll never ever forget, I did a competition once. This was back in 2012, and I still worked in corporate. And there was a photo from the competition. It was from me from behind, and I was wearing a racerback singlet, and I was hanging off some rings. And I changed my Facebook profile picture to that. And one of the girls from work, from a corporate job, said to me, "Why don't you change your picture? You're so muscly, it'll turn guys off." And I remember thinking, and look, I've always been pretty, like, I don't give a shit about what other people think. So that kind of made me go, well, no, fuck that. I'm going to get more muscly, and I'm going to post another picture that's got more muscles on it, because I feel good and I'm not doing it for anyone else.
Yeah.
And I got addicted to the performance side of it. Like, I really got so addicted to the performance side that the physical and the aesthetics became a byproduct, like, which is also impacted how I coach. We drill it into the coaches here and the members, like, track what numbers you're doing every week. Don't get on the scales every week. Track what you're squatting, track what you're benching, track what you're deadlifting, and then next week try to beat it, because the program's going to be this. So try and beat it. Like, if you can focus on the performance side, that change in mindset is life changing, because you become so addicted to that progress in the performance aspect of it. Like, the more you focus on the performance side, that body image for me went lower and lower and lower. So I was like, okay, so my traps are big. Great, I can lift this much. And I think competing obviously then made it, you know, more of an addiction in terms of the performance side of it, because I was like, well, I'm chasing something, and I'm chasing these numbers, and I want to qualify for this competition and do this competition. I want to get to this point. And I had things to chase that were purely performance focused, where even if I had days where I was like, I don't like how I look, it was outweighed by, but I have this goal, like, I need to focus on that. I think also the environment that I was in, like, I was constantly in the gym around other people that were training and other people that were performance focused. I wasn't in an environment anymore where it was like, oh, like, you got to look thin, and I wasn't wearing dresses and heels to work every day. I wasn't wearing makeup to work every day. I was in gym clothes every day. Like, so being in that environment as well helped, I guess, because I wasn't surrounded. I don't know, maybe if I was still surrounded by, you know, people that were very focused on looks and thought muscly was bad, then maybe my perception would have been different, or how I felt about myself would have been different. But I was constantly in an environment where that was celebrated, like, muscles were celebrated, was encouraged. It was, you know, what was that? Sorry?
What did you compete in?
So I competed in Olympic weightlifting. So I started competing in 2015, and it just started off as a coach once said, you know, your numbers are decent. If you were to compete, you would qualify for nationals. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, let's do a comp. So I became a member of New South Wales weightlifting, did a comp, and then it was like one thing led to another. And I was, you know, I was lucky enough, but also I worked my ass off to get to a certain point, and I got to quite a high level. And that experience over those years was, it taught me a lot, and that really helped with my confidence in like focus on the performance again. It's performance, it's not aesthetic.
Yeah.
And then when I stopped was when I got married and had kids. And having kids, especially having a daughter, but also like I've got 2 boys and a girl, and I'm really, really conscious of what I say in front of my daughter. And I'm really conscious of how I talk about myself in front of her, because I've seen just from members how they talk in front of their kids about how they think they're fat or how they want to
Yeah.
lose weight, or kids pick up on that stuff.
100%. I do it. I've got 2
Um,
boys, and I'm conscious of how I speak in front of my 2 boys because I've seen like one of them, like even just stuff on YouTube that he watches about people doing 100 sit-ups to get abs, and that makes them stronger in XYZ. And he's started to pick up on stuff like that. And it's crazy. Like he'll say, "Mum, is this protein? Mum, is this like, is this health?" And it's like, you know what, you're growing. You need as much, like, obviously health is like not overfeeding him, but you're growing. You need as much food as you can get. But you're active, you're playing, you go outside, you're not on your iPad. Like, so it's just changing that, how you frame it. Because of course we want them to be healthy, but not using those words. And as soon as we hear one of them saying something even remotely close to that, we shut it down straight away, and they'll never say it again. Yeah, isn't it? It's just, they're sponges. They pick up on everything and they see everything.
Yes. And that scares the shit out of me, especially with social media.
Yeah.
Even the other day, like I was putting on makeup, and my daughter was like, "Oh, why are you putting on makeup?" And I was like, how do I answer
that?
this?
Yeah.
Without her thinking that she needs to change something about herself.
Yeah.
But then I was like, why am I putting on makeup? Like, but you think about that stuff, like, especially as a parent, I'm like, far out. Like, what do you don't want? I don't know. It's such a scary thought, that your kids will grow up with these body image issues, or with these, like, I don't want them to be worrying about how they look, especially as a girl, but even now these days as a boy.
It's so hard
there's only so much that we can control.
Yeah.
It's so hard to escape it. Like I remember, like obviously we didn't really have social media back in my day. Sounds so old, but we had Dolly magazine, and we had Cosmo. We had and like the articles that they used to write, 5 secrets to lose 5 kilos in 7 days, or like that sort of stuff. Those clickbaity sort of things that they used to write to sell magazine, that sucked me in, let me tell you. I got every issue, and it's exactly like that now. It's just that it's on social media,
online,
it's possible. And it only takes someone to fall in love with a particular influencer to really be influenced by that person, and sometimes that's not always positive. So I don't even know what the answer would be to try and navigate that, and hope for the best possible outcome. Because why do we wear makeup? You know what I mean? Like, I know that I wear makeup because when I had a corporate job, I had to wear makeup. It was part of, like, it was written in the contract. We had to have our hair a certain way, and we had to wear makeup. So you know what I mean? And I've also got a past in the media industry as well, so how we looked, had a direct correlation to how many sales we made, really. You know what I mean? We were our brand. And I think even moving into the fitness industry, it was exactly the same. When I had my own business and I was the face of my business, how I looked directly correlated with, sales, and especially for online coaching. I was online coaching as well. How you look is your brand, right? So it's a slippery slope.
Yes. And it's really funny. Like I've when I was younger, I was always really against, like, why would you go get Botox? Why would you go do this? Why would you go change? Like, and after having kids, I've had Botox done because, and I was trying to explain this to my husband. I was like, I can control my body through my training and through my nutrition. I know that if I start to feel a little bit uncomfortable, or if I start to feel like I'm putting on weight or whatever, it's because I haven't been training or I haven't been eating right. And I know that. And that's something that I control and something I can change. And I feel really good. Like I'm 38 soon, and I feel really, really good about, like, I feel young in my mind. And then some days I look in the mirror and I'm like, my face makes me feel like I'm 100 years old. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just me. That's because I haven't slept, because two of the kids have been up all night, and we've had 3 hours of broken sleep, and I've eaten one meal because I haven't had time, or whatever it might be. And I feel drained and whatever. I'm like, that's the thing that makes me go, yeah, I'm going to go get Botox, because I want to feel fresh, because I want to look in the mirror and, the reflection that I see in my face, I want it to reflect how I feel in my body.
Feel in your body. Yeah.
Is that the right thing? Like, am I sending
Yeah.
the right message to my daughter? Like, I don't know the answer.
Lyndall?
And I feel
I don't have
so conflicted, because I feel really good when I get that done.
Yeah.
And it reflects how I feel when I train in my body and physically. But I don't know. It's a very conflicting headspace for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've always been a big believer
And
in. Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say, and now that my mindset's completely changed, where I'm like, if it makes you feel good, then do it. Like, that's my mindset now.
I've always been a believer in that. Like, everyone should be able to do what they want with their own body with no judgment. If it makes you feel
100%.
like, and that's for anything. Like, eat what you want to eat, train where you want to train, like, have surgery if that's going to make you feel better. Like, I don't care what you do, as long as you're safe and you're not hurting anybody else, is my mentality about it. And I also don't think that means that you have body dysmorphia either. Like, I get Botox as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, wanting to better yourself or look, because I when I get dressed up and I put a face on, it's for me and it's for my girlfriends.
Yes.
It's to impress a guy. It's, I want to look good and I want to feel good. It doesn't mean that I feel about myself or that I have body dysmorphia or anything like that. Like, that's just what makes me feel good. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Lyndall's still trying to get me to Thailand to get rid of my mum pouch.
am I?
It'll happen soon, but like, I'm the same. Like, I look at it and I go, I don't know if it's because of the C-sections or whatever, but it's just that little bit of, body that you just look at every single time you put an outfit on, or when you're training, and no matter how fast I'm running or lifting or whatever, I'm still looking at it. That's the only thing that's my hiccup. And Lyndall's right. Like, if it makes you feel good, get rid of it. But my husband looks at it and he's like, that's where your kids were. I'm like, motherfucker, you don't actually know what it's like to have this. Like, I'm carrying this shit every day.
Yeah.
But I get where he's coming from, because obviously they love us no matter what. But for us as women, I think we go through so much through our life, like especially giving birth or whatever, and it changes us in so many ways that it's not body dysmorphia. I love what I look like now, but it's just like this little hiccup that we always will have no matter what, I think. That's my TED talk for the day.
I guess to wrap it up, like, what's next for you? What's the goal?
Oh God. The goal is to keep doing what I'm enjoying, keep doing what I'm loving. I think this is the happiest I've been. And when I say the happiest I've been in a long time, I mean, like, I feel like there's a fire burning, where I'm happy to be up every day, coming into work every day, being with the family every day. I want to get to a point, I think, where I can keep doing this, but with more time with the kids. I don't want to. I've passed the point of wanting to chase like big things. I'm really content with what I have. I'm content with a smaller circle of friends. You know, one or two or three of really good quality, for me is more important now than 100 mediocre. And that goes for business as well. Like I mentioned earlier, like I went through a phase of like, I want to open up another gym. What we've got here, I fucking love. Like, and I think I don't want to take away from that.
Yeah.
So if I can keep doing this and keep doing it well, spend more time with the family because the kids are growing up. Like my oldest is starting kindy next year. I want to dedicate more time to them. That's my goal. Like I don't need
They need the
the
world.
whole world, and yeah. I
What
think that's it. Like I know it's not an exciting answer, but
No, we had this conversation at the end of last year. I think Linda in our podcast, we said like, can we normalize just cruising into the new year? Can we normalize just rolling with the punches? Like, why does everyone always have to list all these dramatic goals to set themselves up for the new year? Like, why can't we just keep doing what we're doing and be happy with that? Why do we always have to chase the next big thing, you know? So I love that that's what you want to do right now. Yeah.
What advice would you give to anyone that's looking to go into business or start their own business?
There's a lot of things, but I think the most important thing is know what you're getting yourself into, especially if it's something that you're passionate about. And I'll use the fitness industry as an example, like, you know, and my journey started like this, where I was a member and I became obsessed and I fell in love with it. I think if you don't immerse yourself into the business side of things, it can be really easy to think that like, I'm going to open up a gym and it's going to be amazing and I'm going to train all day and just, you know, hang out and the members will come and it's going to be great. And you do it and you're like, shit, this is not how it works. Like I'm training less now than I was before. And that's just the fitness thing as an example, but you have to immerse yourself in it. And if you're able to do it alongside your you know, if you're working a full time and your goal is to do something else and make that transition, like if you can do them side by side, so you get a taste of what it's going to be like, because it's not easy. It's real hard work. And that's why everyone says like, you've got to be passionate about what you do, because if you're not, like, you're putting in so much time and sacrifice and blood, sweat and tears that if you don't love it after 6 months, you're going to throw in the towel. Like, what am I doing? So I think that's the most important thing, is know what you're getting yourself into and know that you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. Like you're going to be the cleaner, you're going to be the marketing person, you're going to be the accountant, you're going to be all of these things. You know, have really real expectations, talk to people who are doing it, get advice from them, know what's involved so that it's not a shock when you do it and you go, oh, I thought I was just going to cruise into it and it would be really easy, because it's not. I think that's the biggest thing.
Media makes it look very glamorized. Like you just flow into it and it is easy. They don't see all the hard work. So
BTS.
A lot of
BTS.
But thank you so much for your time today. That was amazing.
I feel like we could keep going, but we do have other things to do. Far out. I'm like, we haven't even touched on some of the things I wanted to talk about, but maybe we'll do a round two.
Round two.
Part two, yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. It was really nice to talk to you guys.
Let me just get a little snippet for the Okay, got it. Important. We always forget. Yeah.
All right, guys.
You
So
guys.
I'm going to pop all of Parisa's links below if you're ever in the Kingsgrove area and you want to try out her gym, The Yard. We're going to pop all the contact details below so you guys can reach out to her anytime and hook yourselves up with a session. But until next time, bye.
Thank you so much.